Hello everyone, and welcome back to The Final Stab, episode 9. Oh boy, has it been a minute since I've been back doing the podcast. Hello everyone, I am glad to be back. Boy, has it been a journey. Oof, what has happened? So much has happened. I've been gone for, like half a year, I think. Only so many things can happen. Not only has my life been a fucking roller coaster since the last time I was here, but the world in general has been in a roller coaster since the last podcast. I mean, the FNAF movie came out and then everything kind of just like went to shit. Nothing but writers and actors strikes galore, and here we are. It's finally 2024. We got some new horror movies that I would love to talk about. Some more horror news I'd like to talk about. But you're probably wondering, Julian, you're a liar. This isn't the FNAF episode. You promised a FNAF episode. Well, life isn't fair. I'm sorry. I wish I can do another FNAF episode, and I will. At least I hope so. I think we will. I think me and Xavier will definitely team up again, and I'll make him come back to do it, because boy, oh boy, do I have a lot of stuff to say about Five Nights at Freddy's. Well, Blumhouse's Five Nights at Freddy's, and that motherfucker ain't gonna listen to this. I'm scared that Xavier is gonna put a fucking gun to my head. That's all I'm gonna say, because I definitely have some opinions about Five Nights at Freddy's. I don't want to get shit on by all the Five Nights at Freddy's fans. I'm happy for the hardcore Five Nights at Freddy's fans, and that's really is what's important. So, what the fuck do I know, right? But that's for a later conversation. So I would love to get back on that, and I hope so soon. And if you haven't listened to that episode, which is pretty fun, I was kind of under the influence during the recording of that episode, so I couldn't really remember anything I said. So hopefully I don't sound like a dumbass as I might sound now, but anywho, so that's an update on that. I wrote down a lot of shit, and of course, as I always say, I'll record the podcast this week. No, I'll do it next week. No, then I'll do it next week. And then it's like nonstop news keeps coming up. Notes just keep piling on and on and on and on. But that's fine. Then that's why I'm just happy. I'm like, I don't have to talk about everything. That's why I can cut it off, and you guys can come back for another episode, which I think is fair. Let's talk about some trailers that has come out. I'm aware that Chucky Season 3 Part 2 is officially out. As of this recording, we are about to see the finale of Season 3, but I'll wait to talk about Chucky 2 later on into this episode. I'm going to ignore Chucky Season 3 Part 2 trailer. Let's talk about Beetlejuice. I mean, if you have never seen Beetlejuice, I will say I'm sorry. I'm sorry you haven't had the opportunity to have fun and to really see a real, true Tim Burton movie. I love Tim Burton, don't get me wrong, but it is kind of funny to see that, like, of course Tim Burton is a very iconic director, but it's really just his style that he's famous for. Because when you really think about it, it's like, well, what original stuff has Tim Burton really made besides Beetlejuice and Edward Scissorhands? Think about that real quick. Which is fine, alright? I mean, of course I love all the other stuff that he's made, but obviously Beetlejuice is like the best movie. Like, I know it always comes neck and neck between Beetlejuice and Edward Scissorhands, which I love so much, but I mean, come on, it's clearly Beetlejuice. But we're finally getting Beetlejuice 2 after all these years. I mean, I can only count how many times they've always said we're going to have Beetlejuice 2, and I know Beetlejuice 2 has been in the works probably since the first Beetlejuice movie, for all I know, and I'm excited, but clearly I don't think some people will be returning this time around. I wish Gina Davis was coming around, but I think Alec Baldwin is a little busy at the moment, so I think it's okay if maybe Alec Baldwin sits this one out. We do got Miss Jenna Ortega, who's playing Lydia Dietz's daughter. I mean, that's even incredible that Winona Ryder is coming back to play Lydia Dietz, and so is Catherine O'Hara, which, I mean, come on, we love, and we're not going to talk about, I forgot the fucking actor's name, that's how much I don't think about the motherfucker, but we're not going to talk about the actor that played Lydia's dad, who I am certain is going to be killed off in Beetlejuice 2, or should I call it Beetlejuice? I get it. It's a fun title. I'm still going to call it Beetlejuice 2. I mean, come on. I mean, if they make a Beetlejuice 3, are they really going to call it Beetlejuice? Yeah, that's right. I said it, and I don't see that motherfucker here anyway, so, oh well. I'm going to call it Beetlejuice 2. Obviously, Jenna Ortega is going to be Jenna Ortega. I'm sure she'll be lovely. She was great as Wednesday. We'll see how Wednesday season 2 does, even though it's like, did Jenna Ortega really audition, though? Did Jenna Ortega really audition, though? Just saying. Alright. Beetleman X2, you're high up in the cards for me. Can't wait. Alien Romulus. That's actually going to be a blast. I recently just saw Alien in the theaters quite recently, which was a fun experience, but sadly the quality wasn't that great. It was so dark. So I think if you have never seen the Alien movies, definitely check them out. I definitely want to binge the rest of the Alien franchise before Alien Romulus comes out, so I'm pretty excited for that. Probably won't be seeing any more trailers for it. I'm very picky on trailers of what I watch because sadly I do think even teasers show too much, so sometimes I'll either just watch a teaser or just not watch anything at all. Yeah, that's pretty much it on trailers I can think of right now, at least anything that I've written down. But if anything I missed, please let me know. Let's get into some reviews. I've been watching a lot of shit at least, so that's pretty fun. Let's see, we'll start off with Lisa Frankenstein. I was really excited for Lisa Frankenstein because I'm a huge fan of Diablo Cody. If you don't know Diablo Cody, she's an Oscar-winning writer. She won the Oscar for Juno, which if you've never seen Juno, I mean, I highly recommend. Great movie. But she wrote Jennifer's Body. Now, I've been planning this for a while to talk about underrated horror, but I kind of feel like as the years go by, Jennifer's Body isn't really that underrated because finally people are starting to give it the recognition that it deserves because it's a misunderstood masterpiece. You heard it here. I love Jennifer's Body. I'll never forget the first time seeing it back when it came out. And it's like, well, where the hell has everyone been? I can't believe no one's ever really watched Jennifer's Body. And then, of course, it had the worst marketing possible. Absolutely love Jennifer's Body. So to see that Diablo Cody was coming back to make another horror film, to write another horror film, with the daughter of Robin Williams, Zelda Williams, who this was also her directorial debut. And I think they both did a pretty great job, especially Zelda. I love the cast. I love Catherine Newton. This seems to kind of be her year right now. And, of course, I grew up watching Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. How can I not know Mr. Cole Sprouse? Kudos to him for having really mostly just a physical role. He doesn't really have much lines in the movie. I think that the movie was good, but there's my only nitpicks I have for it is that, you know, sadly it is PG-13, but it does push the boundaries, so I give it that. But the first time I watched it, I saw it alone in the theater, filled with nothing but couples and a bunch of teen girls, which I just thought like, okay, well, I knew what I was walking into. This is a PG-13, you know, horror rom-com, and it is fun. But one of the reviews that I saw on, I think it was on Rotten Tomatoes, one of the reviews I saw, I couldn't agree more, and it said it's mostly style over substance, which I couldn't agree more, because the movie kind of struggles to really have a plot. It really just kind of focuses on paying homage to the 80s, which absolutely blew it out of the park with the set design and the costumes and everything. They did a great job of making the movie feel like it takes place in the 80s, but it has a huge influence on the movie Heathers or like movies like Jawbreaker. This movie I remember watching many years ago kind of had a similar tone to Lisa Frankenstein, but I remember it, I think it's more R-rated. What is it called? I know it has Christopher Lloyd in it. Let me just look it up. The Bad Girls of Valley High. Yes, it's kind of similar, and at least as in tone, I would say. I really liked this movie whenever I would watch it back on like HBO. Fucking hell, God knows how many moons ago. So it's very much in vein. If you've seen those movies, it's very much more in vein of those types of movies. Holy shit, Aaron Paul's in this fucking movie. Hold up. Or maybe even the movie Sugar and Spice. Now that I really think about it, I don't know, that it's a very specific type of humor that those movies have that I'd say Lisa Frankenstein very much can relate to. But overall, I saw it a second time recently, and I honestly really liked it a lot more. I'd say my only nitpick still is maybe the pacing. I think the pacing's a little off, but for the most part, I think it's great. But what's not great is how bad it did in the box office. My God. People talk shit about Jennifer's Body because of how much it didn't do well in the box office. Well, I guess history repeats itself because Lisa Frankenstein did horrible. And that honestly breaks my heart because this movie at least deserved its money back. And I definitely wholeheartedly believe that it would have killed as a Netflix movie. So it is what it is. If you have the chance to see it, definitely check it out, support it, and that's all I can really say on Lisa Frankenstein. It's good, not great, but I had a good time, and we'll continue watching it again. You know what I don't like? This is where I'm gonna finally go off on some terrible fucking horror movies, man. Imaginary. Sadly, Blumhouse gave us another stinker. Big shocker there. Yeah, Imaginary, horrible. Don't bother. It's one of the worst horror movies I've seen this year. I can't believe I actually spent money, went to a theater, sat down, and, you know, I guess shame on me because I didn't do any research. The only reason why I even went was because Blumhouse was collaborating with Lionsgate again, and they haven't collaborated, at least from what I can recall, since Sinister, so I thought, okay, that's interesting. But sadly, it's PG-13, and it's just god-awful. I should have looked up the director, and like I said, shame on me. It's from the motherfucker that directed Truth or Dare and Fantasy Island. So you got a guy that basically directed shit and poop. Anything that comes out from this dude, I'm never seeing, because the only thing I'd say he did that was decent was when he directed Kick-Ass 2, but I'll be honest, and this comes from a huge fan of Kick-Ass. Stay tuned for future episodes. You can tell that Kick-Ass 2 was directed by someone else, and that's why Kick-Ass 2 does get some of the hate that it gets, but that's all I'll say. Imaginary, horrible. It's nothing but run-of-the-mill Blumhouse schlop, and this shit's just getting tired at this point. I really do hope that Blumhouse really makes a banger, because they've been struggling, man. I'm not even gonna lie. I'd say the last good thing Blumhouse made, granted, I do defend Halloween Ends, but if I had to be completely honest, I think that's where shit's really starting to hit the fan with Blumhouse and how their quality's dipping a little bit, but fuck, at least Halloween Ends and, you know, Exorcist Believer really had a vision from a guy that, you know, I felt like really cared about those franchises. But anything else other than that, I'd say the last maybe decent thing Blumhouse gave us was probably Freaky. That's as far back as I can think. But yeah, terrible. I'm never watching that movie ever again, and I rather you guys do the same. Blumhouse needs to learn. They need to stop making this stupid shit, but sadly, they're gonna make them because they're PG-13, and that's how the teenagers are gonna get in, right? Let's see. Let's talk about Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. Now, I am a massive fan. Ever since I was a kid, I loved Ghostbusters. Personally, I think Ghostbusters 2 is the best one. And I actually defend the 2016 Ghostbusters, you know, with all the female comedians. Say what you want, but the last Ghostbusters movie I liked, but I didn't really like how it played it safe. It went down the requel train and went all through the same tropes and kind of just, you know, played it safe. I thought, okay, great, they're making another Ghostbusters movie. We can finally, you know, have fun and go back to New York, except the biggest problem with Ghostbusters Frozen Empire is it has great ideas, but sadly, once those ideas are used up, the movie has like 10 minutes left and we still haven't even really gone down to the premise, because, I mean, the movie has already come out. I don't think this is that much of a spoiler, but there's just been non-stop marketing about how it's a frozen empire and all this frozen ice stuff. Yeah, that shit's not until like the last maybe 20 minutes of the movie, and that's why it's kind of conflicting, because I think it had great ideas, but sadly another thing it kind of fucks up is knowing who the hell the main character is. That's something that I didn't really like with the recent Jurassic World movies. It's kind of like that fucking horrible Jurassic World Dominion. It's where basically everyone's the main character and there's like 20 main characters, and it just kind of becomes messy. But the thing with Ghostbusters Frozen Empire is pretty much everyone's likable, but we also have to have a much more, you know, organized story to tell here, and it kind of just sort of ends. It doesn't really set anything up. The post-credit scene is just more of a gag, and I really think, without spoiling anything, I really think they could have had it end where the Ghostbusters lose. That's all I'll say. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But I think if they really had like a really big, you know, Avengers Infinity War leveled ending, it would have really killed for another sequel. But I really don't know where the fuck they're gonna go after this. I mean, the legacy characters have their time to shine, which is nice, and I mean, will they be in the next one? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But yeah, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, I liked it. I will definitely watch it again. I will definitely own it. It wasn't like that bad. I can say it was better than Afterlife. I can definitely say that. But I don't know. I don't know where the Ghostbusters franchise is gonna go after this, but I'd say it was at least pretty good. Now we're going down some neon horror, which is pretty fun, and obviously these are the studios that we all can at least admire, that are at least keeping the train running and keeping us wanting to keep seeing stories being told. A24, Neon, Magnolia, you name it. Studios, IFC even. Fucking love IFC. Immaculate was recently made by Neon. And honestly, I mean, I hate to compare Neon to A24, but I would say if I had to, A24 I think does stuff a little better because they really stick to what their meanings are, and with Neon it's much more kind of out there, I would say. I mean, if you've never seen any Neon horror, I definitely recommend watching anything Brandon Cronenberg has made. Possessor is a fucking banger. Loved Infinity Pool. I did see Crimes of the Future, and that's a story for another time, but anywho, yes, so sometimes they're hit or miss when it comes to Neon stuff. I'm excited for Longlegs to be coming this year. That'll be very exciting. But Immaculate, I was a little hesitant to see it just because I'm not the biggest fan of Catholic horror, supernatural horror, but it was interesting because it is nunsploitation, which I think is a very fun subgenre. Sadly, the actual nun movies we get from Warner Bros. Are not that great, so I just figured, why not? You know, let's see what the season of Euphoria has in for us, and oh boy, this was a quite interesting movie. I definitely will see it again and will own it because I think it's definitely worth being talked about because, you know, I don't want to give anything away, but it's a Catholic nun-sploitation horror film that has nothing to do with the devil. That's all I'll say. Definitely recommend checking it out. What is really funny, and I can't wait to really dive into this next movie, is The First Omen. Now, if you've never seen The Omen, the original Omen, I say, what are you doing? It's like seeing The Exorcist. Those two are always compared to each other. It's like Citizen Kane and Casablanca. Even though, I mean, come on, The Exorcist is The Exorcist. You gotta see The Exorcist. But the Omen, I can at least say, if I had to compare The Omen to The Exorcist, I would say The Omen as a franchise is definitely much more, what's the word, cohesive than the Exorcist franchise. I mean, all that really matters, I mean, even though I personally, like I say, I defend Exorcist Believer, and I was excited to see what was to come with that franchise, but God knows what's going to happen. But if you're ever going to really dive into the Exorcist franchise, you really just got to watch 1 and 3. Those are the greatest ones. But when it comes to the Omen franchise is actually pretty good. I mean, the first Omen, of course, is iconic, and the second one is pretty good. Third one is okay. The fourth one is so stupid. I've been binging them recently just because I was excited to watch the first Omen, and yeah, God, Omen 4, that shit is horrible. The remake is pretty good. Actually, now that I think about it, I think I saw the Omen remake first before I ever saw the original, which wasn't bad. I mean, of course, watching the original, there definitely is a major difference, and you can tell I would have maybe appreciated watching the original more, but I actually do think that the remake did a pretty solid job at the time, you know, and it had already been almost 20 years since we had even seen another Omen movie, and it was since that remake. So to hear that we were getting another Omen movie from 20th Century Studios, I believe, but really it's Disney, you know, but Disney's honestly been killing it with their horror movies. I mean, they knocked it out of the park with Prey. I really like Poor Things. Congratulations to Emma Stone. I'm glad she won the Oscar for that. And what else have they done? I guess technically they own the rights to Ready or Not, I believe, but that was before they really took over. And it was pretty funny because watching the first Omen, it has a much similar premise to Immaculate, and I was like, son of a bitch, because it's literally about a nun from America traveling to Europe, and fucked up shit happens. So on, I literally saw them like a week apart from each other, so I was like, oh shit, I hope this isn't like the same stuff. But they were both fun, at least I can at least say that. But obviously the first Omen just absolutely blew me away. I wanted to give the first Omen the benefit of the doubt. I mean, I didn't know anything about it really. I just figured obviously it's a prequel if it's called the first Omen, but I didn't really know anything else beyond that, and my goodness. Now, as I say, if I had to compare The Exorcist and The Omen, I mean, if I had to compare Exorcist Believer and The First Omen blew him right out the fucking park. My God. I think if you're a fan of the Omen franchise, you will absolutely love The First Omen. I've seen nothing but love and praise for the movie, and I'm glad that they recently got their money back. I just checked the box office. I was scared too, but they did get their money back, and I really think they have something big planned here. It's really rare for a prequel to not only span the universe because it's a prequel, but it really can explore other stories, and it also kind of adds new layers to the original that I pretty much was on board with and will enjoy seeing being continued if it continues, which I hope. But that's really up for you guys to decide if you ever plan to see the Omen franchise. But my goodness, the first Omen was great. I apologize, I do not know who directed it, but I know it was also her. It was a female director, and it was her directorial debut, and she absolutely had a vision, and she did an excellent job, and I cannot wait to see the first Omen again, and will absolutely own it. Yeah, great stuff all around. I also recently just saw Abigail, because how can I not? I mean, it's from the directors of Scream 5 and 6 and Ready or Not. Of course, collaborating with Samantha from Scream. My goodness, get ready for when I'm ready to talk about Scream 7, because Abigail's great. I really hope people go check it out, because it seems like vampires are not in style anymore. We are not living in the Twilight days, because Renfield did such a poor job. No one talked about that new Bram Stoker Dracula movie. I forgot what it was called even. And it doesn't really look like Abigail's doing too well at the box office, so I definitely, absolutely highly recommend people to go love and support it. If you love Ready or Not, if you love the new Scream movies, what are you doing? Go see Abigail. It's a bloody good time. Great cast. Like I said, Catherine Newton, she's also, it must be her year because she's also in the movie. Definitely recommend Abigail. I absolutely loved it. It was just nothing but bloody fun, and it was definitely in the top. I'd say out of all the movies I've talked about for this year, I would say the First Omen and Abigail are definitely my top two of this year so far. I mean, we already have too many other things to talk about, but yeah, Abigail is incredible. If you don't know anything about it, perfect, because unfortunately, if you've seen the trailers give away a lot, and I'm glad I didn't know anything. I also kind of wish I didn't know the premise, because obviously I keep in touch with like the news and stuff, right? So I only knew about the premise from reading about it, and I kind of wish I didn't, because then you really would have been surprised, because something that the movie kind of suffers from, that I'm so glad, I think it was Chris Stuckman who I watched, shout out Chris Stuckman, can't wait for his new horror movie to come out, but he talked about how you can tell that the marketing of the movie kind of got a little fishy, because the movie doesn't really start until like halfway, even though it's like the audience already knows the premise of the movie, and I really wish that people could have went in not knowing much. That would have made it way more exciting, but I get it, they have to sell tickets, but fuck me, I'm right. I mean, it seems like Universal, this is their third vampire horror film they've made, and they've all done a bad job, so yeah, I don't know if we will be seeing any more vampire stuff in the near futures, which is too bad, it honestly is, except for Nosferatu, but that's from Robert Eggers, which I definitely can't wait to see, but oh boy, feel bad for those vampires, man. I guess nobody's fucking with them no more. Do you guys want a bonus review? I think you want a bonus review. This did not come out this year, but I do still recommend it. Dream Scenario. If you have not seen Dream Scenario, I highly recommend it. Please go watch it. If you don't know anything like I did, please watch Dream Scenario. It's with Nicolas Cage, and that's all you really need to know. I mean, it's Nicolas Cage. But the director of Dream Scenario is incredible. I think it's Christopher Borgli, I'm not too sure. Someone foreign. Did a phenomenal job. I recently saw his movie, which I also recommend, called Sick of Myself. Like I say, the least you know, the better. I absolutely loved Dream Scenario. I think it's worth talking about, so definitely check out Dream Scenario, guys. Like I say, the least you know, the better. But yeah, that's all I can say. Well, that's all I got for movie reviews. I know I keep just saying, it's good, it's bad. I try to keep it vague, guys. I'm sorry. I don't like to give stuff away, but these movies are all still great, except for Imaginary. That movie can fuck off. Let's get on to another topic. Oh boy. Oh Jesus. Alright. So I did write down Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. Alright, let's get into this. You know, I think it is fun that, like, at least as an audience, we can all enjoy shit filmmaking. and just like goofy shit coming out in theaters. I understand that it's exciting to see big IP turn into horror stuff, and for something like Winnie the Pooh to be turned into a horror film is obviously hilarious and also exciting. I never really gave a shit about checking out Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey just because I knew it was going to be stupid, and I knew for a fact that first one was probably nothing to be desired of, but I'm aware of how successful that first one did, so they got a budget to make a second one, and I've seen some clips, and honestly, I kind of don't mind sitting it out, but they announced a universe. Thank you, MCU, for what you've done to the movie industry, because now everything has to have a fucking universe. But we're getting the Pooniverse, apparently. We're just getting nothing but a bunch of fairy tale horror films, and honestly, why not? If you enjoy them, great. I'll definitely check out Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey 2, just because like I said, I'm aware of the budget that it was given, and I think it's exciting to at least have a budget. That's another thing I should talk about. It's like, a lot of people think that, with these fairy tale horror films, they're like changing the game, and it's like, no, this shit's been going on for years. I mean, I think I can definitely think as far back as like Pinocchio's Revenge, which is an absolute favorite of mine. I actually really like Pinocchio's Revenge. They made a lot of fairy tale horror films in the 90s. I think I remember Rumpelstiltskin, that's another one. I could have swore they made a Snow White horror film with Sigourney Weaver. So yeah, like, now this shit's been going on for years, and I did see the trailer, because let's see, let me pull up this fucking list of movies that they announced for the Pooniverse. We got Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 1 and 2, Bambi the Reckoning, Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare, Pinocchio Unstrung, and then Pooniverse, Monsters Assemble. This is the world we're living in, folks. I saw the trailer that got released for Bambi the Reckoning, and honestly, that shit did look pretty entertaining. It looks stupid, right? Because you're just seeing a fucking CG deer just, wreck shit, but why not? Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare sounds interesting. I don't know how they'll make that into a horror film. I really don't care to look into it, honestly. I'll just wait until shit comes out for it. And then I was excited to actually see another Pinocchio horror film, even though it's like, well, these are all low budget. I hope it's not like those fucking shitty Robert movies. If you've ever heard of those Robert horror movies that you probably see at Walmart, you always see the fucking DVDs for them. Yeah, you can just you can pass on those. But I was excited to hear that we were getting another, because obviously you guys know I love Chucky. I'm a big fan of killer toy horror, but I looked into Pinocchio Unstrung, right, and I heard that they were getting inspiration of the creator of Chucky to help them make the design for their Pinocchio puppet, and I was like, I know damn well Don Mancini is not going to help with this fucking low-budget Pinocchio bullshit. Nope, it's from the people who made the Child's Play remake, and I'm like, oop, never mind. Good luck. That's all I can say. Good luck, because oof, if you guys remember how Chucky looked in that remake. Oy, oy, oy. Yeah, so Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, good for you guys. You guys are making nothing but that's good for you. Speaking of Chucky, Chucky's in very interesting water right now. I mean, it's crazy to see that we're finally into the 3rd season of the franchise. Like, I generally just can't believe that. And I really just want Chucky to keep going, right? And obviously I want to see Chucky succeed. And they also recently just announced we're getting a Chucky movie now. Before I talk about season 3 and how I think season 4 might go, a Chucky movie, we are absolutely in desperate need of another Chucky movie. I think it's definitely time, and we definitely need to see it come out in theaters already, or at least a limited release. Chucky's earned it. I mean, you really can't say, a lot of franchises can't say from where they go from being this big franchise that comes out in theaters to now going, more into the minor leagues, going more straight to DVD, which, successfully were straight to DVD and also made great stories, to becoming a very hit television show. Not a lot of franchises can say that. So I think it's great to see that. I think it would be honestly great to see another Chucky movie come out, and I have no idea what Don has planned. He said that it's supposed to come out, I believe, after season 4, so I can't really say what I want the movie to be, but what I can say, so for another Chucky movie, if we're going to keep the Of Chucky title, I hope they use this title. I don't care what the plot even is, just because I've always wanted this to be a title for a Chucky movie, but you got this, The Bride, The Seed, The Curse, call any Chucky, either it's the next one or a future one, call any Chucky movie Fear of Chucky. I think that'd be a great title. I don't know why. I remember I had a short film many moons ago planned a long time ago that I wanted to call it Fear of Chucky. I think another Chucky movie sounds very exciting, and definitely give him a budget. My God. I mean, that's definitely something that the franchise, that the television series, I think definitely kind of struggles with, as you can tell that, you know, some of the budget either goes to the sets or goes to Chucky himself, but it's hard to really get it as perfect as I used to, because I was recently watching Seed of Chucky for the billionth time, and I was like, God damn it, Chucky used to look flawless. But I'm definitely not saying that Chucky looks bad, and there definitely has been a major improvement throughout the TV series for him. I miss when Chucky used to look really good, and the puppeteering used to be just really top notch with the way he would talk and walk, and we'll see how things go, because I definitely think season 3 has been a lot of fun. It's definitely nowhere as near as season 1. Season 1 I think is the best season of the show by far, but it is better than season 2, I can say. I always like to say that each season has a great blend of the movies. I'd say season 3 is a good blend of curse and cult of Chucky. I think that's fair. I think it's a good blend of those. It has the campiness from Cult, and it has the grittiness from Curse, at least to a certain degree. And I definitely think that, especially where the franchise is now, without giving anything away, we've been coming up with some great ideas. I'd say this season has had one of the best ideas since Cult of Chucky by far. And to see where Chucky can possibly go now, I mean, obviously I've already said Chucky season 3 takes place at the White House, and apparently season 4 is going to go beyond that. And it's like, when Don says that season 4 is going to go past the White House, it's like, are we really going to go to space? Are we really going to go to space? Honestly, I'm down. Fuck it. Take Chucky to space. I think it could be interesting. The only thing I can think of that goes beyond the White House would either take Chucky to space or hell. So we'll see where things go. Like I said, I'm filming this right before the premiere of the finale of season 3, so maybe we'll get some hints where season 4 will go. I'm excited. I'm always happy to see Chucky succeed, and we'll just see how things go for the future of Chucky. And now is the time we talk about Scream 7. I don't even know where to start. Like I said, my life has been a roller coaster, and literally it's like looking back at Julian from episode 8, I'm just like, oh, that poor baby. I just want to give him a hug and tell him good luck. Yeah, so much has happened, my God, to poor Scream 7. I mean, when I was taking my break from the podcast and the strikes were going on, there were just like non-stop shit going on about how apparently Melissa Beretta, unfortunately, was fired from Scream 7, and then Jenna Ortega immediately kind of quit Scream 7, basically. And it's like, what happened? I'm not going to get into all the political shit that went on with, Melissa, and I just really not get into all that, but the fact of the matter is that Spyglass just lost 2 of the biggest stars of the Scream franchise right now. Obviously, we love Nev, and I'm glad to hear that Nev Campbell is coming back for Scream 7, but before I get to that, it's really gross to see how the franchise has kind of grown since Scream 5, because, I don't care, I'll say it, but a lot of the new fans that have come about have only seen Scream 5 and 6, which is perfectly fine. I think it's great that Scream 5 and 6 were able to be a new gateway for new horror fans or Scream fans, to really enjoy this kind of stuff, but it really bothers me whenever people say stupid shit online. Like when the whole news about the firing happened, it's like people just immediately blew it out of proportion. People act like they literally were in the fucking studio and witnessed her get fired right on the spot, and I just really hate that shit. And it's really gross to see how the Scream fans kind of reacted to this situation. My reaction, honestly, in the beginning, I just thought, okay, how many times have we heard actors getting fired, or whatever disputes may happen? And I just immediately thought, okay, let them settle it out. Something will get figured out. They're not going to let go of, Sam and Tara from Scream. But it kind of seems like that's kind of the case right now, because they announced that Nev Campbell's coming back, Sydney's back, awesome. And it's going to be directed by Kevin Williamson. Now, obviously, before I get to Kevin Williamson, I feel so bad for Christopher Landon, honestly. I feel bad that he was so excited to be, to be a part of the Scream franchise and to have the opportunity to even direct a Scream movie. It's just amazing. And to see that opportunity taken away from somebody is really upsetting, and I generally feel bad for him. And he was definitely on my list of people who I think really could have done a great job of, taking over for Radio Silence. James Wan, I think, would have done a pretty good job. Someone who I really think would do great, especially because I really loved Thanksgiving, and like I say, I'm not a gamer. Good luck to Borderlands. Good luck to the Borderlands fans when that comes out, but I really think Eli Roth would have done a great job. I can absolutely see him direct a Scream movie. I think he would make it fucking gory and nasty, and Eli Roth was my number one pick for who would replace Radio Silence for Scream 7, but it kind of seems like Kevin Williamson didn't want everything to go to shit after everything with Melissa and Jenna departing, and obviously, of course, Jenna Ortega wasn't gonna have time to do it. I mean, she's fucking Jenna Ortega. She's too busy filming Wednesday season 2. Of course she wasn't gonna be able to do Scream 7, even though, and I'm aware, I've seen the comments, fuck me, I guess, right? Because I have been manifesting how Scream 7 should really go. Without having Jenna Ortega there, it kind of fucks up the plan, but there's still an opportunity. That's the silver lining, right? The only thing I can say, we'll see how Scream 7 goes, right? I obviously hope to see Scream 7 be a success, because that's also my reaction. I'm not going to, completely disown the franchise just because of, the shit that's been going on. Because it's Scream, Neve Campbell's attached, and it's Kevin Williamson who's directing, which is huge. I don't think people really understand that, especially for the people who don't know that Kevin Williamson, he's really the creator of Scream. Like, let's just be honest. Obviously, we all love Wes, and Wes created the formula and the look and tone of Scream, but Scream would not be what it is without Kevin Williamson, because he wrote the damn movie and has written many other incredible things. I really loved his last project he did, Sick. That was a really fun horror film. And he's directing for the very first time. That's another big deal, is not only is he back in the franchise, because he was only back for 5 and 6 as a producer, and then he wrote all the Scream films besides 3, 5, and 6, and he's not coming back to write 7, which is interesting, but he's directing, and that's huge. But one of the writers for Scream 7 was one of the co-writers for 5 and 6, and he also wrote Ready or Not, and also, I believe, co-wrote Abigail. It's still gonna feel like we have the same people who made the Scream movies of today. And it's interesting that it's only going to be one writer, which I hope. I think it's always fine to just have one writer. I don't think we should have no more than 2, 3 max, because 3's a crowd, and you definitely don't want to have too many cooks in the kitchen. And I absolutely will love to see what happens with Scream 7. The only thing that I wouldn't say complaint, but it definitely is a concern, is like, okay, great, Sydney's coming back, now what? It's Sidney Prescott. You really think she's gonna just trust anyone? I just don't really see a point in that. I obviously, if you haven't listened to my Scream 7, how I think Scream 7 should have went, definitely go back to past episodes. I think I made a whole clip of it on the channel, but I think it would have been great of how they could have handled Scream 7 with the core 4 of 5 and 6, meeting with the originals of the original quadrilogy. So it is too bad to see that we're kind of having to go flesh off into another not timeline, but just another, adventure for Sydney. And it's like, well, like I said, she's not just going to trust anyone. I think the only way we can really have another Scream movie is if it's on a cruise ship or space, because she has to be in a secluded location. She's not trusting a fucking soul. And it's like, is she going to be hanging out with teenagers? Because typically that's who is targeted by Ghostface, or young adults at least. And I don't know how they're going to do all that. Obviously, I hope they'll bring back Patrick Dempsey as Mark Kincaid from Scream 3, aka Sydney's husband, which is canon now. Even though it is strange that Sydney, and he was never mentioned in Scream 4, which I know damn well was not the plan. And another thing that I do complain a little bit about for Scream 5 is I personally don't think Sydney would be a mom, especially that late into the franchise. I think if she was a mom, she would have been a mom by 4, or wouldn't have been a mom at all. And it's also too bad, especially because if it's going to be about Sydney and her family, she has probably, little kids. I guess it's scary to see little kids being targeted by Ghostface, right? I doubt the movies will have the balls to kill them off, even though that would be very interesting. I definitely think if Sydney was to be a mom, she should have been a mom by 4, because if she had kids by Scream 4, they would have been teenagers by now, which would have been great. They would have been definitely would have been targets for Ghostface, definitely been potential victims and also killers for the Scream franchise, would be really crazy, but the opportunity is kind of taken away. The only thing I can think of for that we can benefit is, because I do remember saying that if Scream 7 happened, it would be filled to the brim of characters, because I would want so many characters from Scream 6 to be in Scream 7, including Sydney and her family. So I definitely think that we can benefit from this in a way. We can at least see what Sydney's up to. Obviously, I know Gayla's coming back, and that kind of concerns me after what she went through in 6. So I hope, of course, I don't ever want to see them get killed off. I would love to see Kirby come back, obviously, but we'll see what they do. I think this is we're in very interesting waters right now. I just don't understand how people could really react to how when Melissa got fired. Like, obviously, I agree that we shouldn't just, end Samantha and Tara's story where they left off. Granted, they left off on a high note, but still, I just feel like there's just so much more potential, especially not just with Samantha and Tara, but also Mindy and Chad and the rest of the gang that survived Scream 6. And I don't know. I just think, well, let's just see how Scream 7 does. Obviously, let's go support it. It so blows my mind to see how gross everyone is, and to see them coming after Neve Campbell as if she had anything to fucking do with Melissa getting fired. It just really strange, especially for the people who went to the conventions and were talking shit about Neve in front of Melissa. I think that's so just gross, and I don't respect that kind of behavior, honestly. Like, it's just so childish and stupid. Like, we should just, celebrate that these movies are still even being made. And to see Sydney come back, even though we all praised her to come back, and then of course once Melissa got fired, then it's like, oh, fuck Neve Campbell, and it's like, that's so stupid. I'm happy for Neve, and I'm happy that she wants to come back to play Sydney Prescott again, because I definitely think that there is more potential, because I'll be honest, especially since it's 2 years later after Scream 5, I think the way that they handled Sydney was definitely good for what the story they were trying to tell, but obviously it kind of seemed like Neve Campbell didn't really even want to be there to begin with. So to see Sydney finally being the focus again, just for at least a brief moment in one movie before we get back to hopefully Samantha and Tara, which I hope, I think that's something that we should at least be willing to check out. And like I said, if you're a fan of sequels, you're a fan of seeing the franchise continue, there's an opportunity for the franchise to continue, and we can still see more stories being told. So obviously I'm glad for Scream 7. I just want to see the franchise succeed. I do laugh though whenever people think like, no, they're gonna hire Melissa back, just watch. Obviously they're gonna just sell the rights, because apparently that's what Melissa had said, that she'll come back in a heartbeat if they sell the rights, Spyglass or Paramount, whatever the fuck who owns the rights to Scream right now. And it's like, that's not gonna happen. Like, let's just be real here. Like, you really think that they're gonna be like, well, we have the biggest horror IP in history right now. Oh, but the fans are a little upset. We're just gonna sell the rights to someone else. Let's be realistic. That's never gonna happen. But obviously, with the dawn of social media, maybe they'll listen and they'll see how people will react, especially because you would think with Neve Campbell being on front and center of this new movie, it'll do good. It's like, well, Scream 6 did the best in the franchise ever did, if I can recall, and Neve Campbell's not even in the movie, but we'll see. I don't think they're gonna call it Scream 7, unfortunately, which I'm gonna call it Scream 7 regardless. I don't mind the Roman numerals if they bring that back, but really I just want to bring back the damn numbers, because the script that the Neve Campbell had posted, it said Untitled Scream 7, so we'll probably have Scream with a subtitle. Call it Screams, why not? That's really all I can think of for now, guys. Thank you so much for listening. I'm so glad to have finally been back for the final stab. It's gonna take some time for me to get used to it. I understand this is just more of like a horror speed run as I talk about all these topics, but I really don't know what else to talk about. Please just comment, say something. I really don't know where to go off of. It's too bad. I remember I did have episode 9 planned. I really wanted to at least do 10 episodes before I hit a year of doing this podcast, which also I forgot to mention, it's been a year since I've been doing the podcast, and I can't believe how much time has been flying, and I absolutely cannot wait to make more episodes. I have so much in store. I mean, like I said, with episode 9, I originally wanted to talk about holiday horror films, because I was going to originally have episodes come out back in December, but that's fine. I had the thumbnail made, so at least I got that done. I'll put an exclusive look for the video listeners to see what the thumbnail will be for the potential holiday horror film discussion. But I honestly don't know what else to really go off of. I am aware that the Scary Movie franchise is apparently coming back, and that I can talk about the Scary Movie franchise, or at least just horror spoofs or horror parodies as a whole in general. Maybe that can be another episode. That'll be really fun. I would love to talk about horror movies of 2022. That was such a special year for horror films, and I would love to do a ranking of from best to worst horror films of that year. Definitely plan to have upcoming guests come on the podcast, and we could talk about our worst movie theater experiences. That'll be really fun. And I definitely want to talk about underrated horror in the future. So we'll see you guys. Thank you so much for listening. I'm glad to finally be back doing this. This was such a blast. I know there's so many other things I wanted to cover, but that's why you just got to come back for the next episode. Thanks for listening, guys, and I'll see you next time.